Hey everyone, welcome back to
The Fire You Can't Put Out.
Okay, I know we are a little bit late this week on the show, and well, there are a lot of stuff going on, and I have to do some traveling, and the other hosts are dealing with some stuff, so nothing major. But
I'm back.
Right, so we are all back, and this show is a little bit late, a couple of days late. So hopefully we didn't miss the boat on anything. Did we miss the boat on anything? No.
No, we're just going to bring you that much more news, and we're gonna package it a a little this week.
Is there a boat? Really? I mean, okay. Let me ask you, like out of the blue. Let me ask you a question. Why do anybody need a boat? Like a luxury yacht. Why would anybody need that?
Because you can afford it. That's the only reason I can think.
I don't ever understand that. You know, why do you need your own, 100 feet yacht? You can tell I'm tired and I'm running on basically on the caffeine.
It's the best way to show that you have more money than God. Nobody needs that. Like even you think about something that's 100 feet long,
right?
And floats on the water. Right.
Well, there are legitimate reasons for owning them.
Such as?
Okay. Such as, let's say you are somebody who decides that that's going to be your home.
But that's so easy. Oh, wow, okay. Well, but
okay.
That's not
so there are people who legitimately live on a yacht and travel around the world.
It seems so evil. It's like you can destroy the world, but
That's kind of James Bondian.
I had a friend of mine who went to live on a boat with a friend of hers, just like a boat.
Yeah.
And they and they 6 months out of the year they lived on this boat, and they went fishing and all the rest, and just sort of lived off the land, and it was very, very cool and inspiring to me. That kind of thing makes sense to me.
Okay.
They were doing it because they wanted to live off the land. They wanted to minimize their footprint on the planet, and I think it's very admirable.
Especially if it's a sailboat.
Exactly, and that's what it was. That's what it was. It was a sailboat, and these yachts are getting maybe a gallon to the knot. I mean, they're a gigantic footprint, and you're really just waving around.
You might as well own the Princess
wang.
Cruise Line or something.
Absolutely, yeah. You're just waving around your big money wang. That's all you're doing.
Speaking of that,
anyway,
these cruise lines, how many accidents are we going to have before we say, gee?
I believe, didn't they were, the last one, right? They were anchoring it in somewhere in Alabama.
In the South. Yeah.
Right? And then it kind of got off the dock, and then people fell off overboard.
Well, it was listing to the left or the right or something.
Anyway, I'm so sorry for this tangent. You can.
No, that's okay.
You can see that I'm tired and I'm like running basically on caffeine. So okay, the housekeeping stuff. We have a email address. It's TFYCPO@gmail.com. Say that again. It's TFYCPO@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. Address is www.facebook.com/TFYCPO, which stands for
The Fire You Can't Put Out.
Thank you. And once again, we need to thank our guys at the Open Sky Radio in San Francisco, California. Beautiful San Francisco, California, home of the San Francisco Giants and the San Francisco 49ers, which just picked a couple of players in the NFL draft. Yes. And you can see I'm tired because I'm all over the place. Anyway, all right. So now last week, Angela wasn't with us, so it was just me and Melvin. Just I know.
Hello there.
I discovered that my campus must have Skype blocked or something.
Yeah, something is going on.
Something is going on.
Something IT-ish is going on. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this week we probably need to update the Boston bombing tragedy a little bit because a lot came out. I think last time didn't we tape it during when the manhunt was like coming to an end?
That's exactly. Well, they were doing the manhunt, and what had happened was they had essentially they had the entire city on lockdown that day.
Right.
Okay,
so, which is
and
incredible.
then the police held a press conference, and they said, "All right, everybody, you know what? We're done looking for the day. Lockdown over. everybody go ahead and go outside your houses. We'll go ahead and we'll pick this thing up again tomorrow. And then one guy who owns a boat, by the way, decided to step outside and have a smoke and noticed that there was a cut in the tarp of his boat. He inspected, saw blood, and called 911, and it was on again. The police showed up, and here's what's interesting to me. The police showed up and just filled this guy's boat full of holes.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
What was up with that?
They just shot the hell out of the boat, and the guy, the second suspect, lived. But here's the thing. He had initially, he still has, a hole in his throat. Now, they're not sure if he tried to cut his own throat or if he got shot in the throat. And they said, well, he can't talk right now. He has a hole in his throat.
Well, okay, wait a minute. Let's back up. My understanding is they that barrage of ammunition, those are non-lethal bullets.
They're non-lethal.
Rubber tip.
Are they called those flash?
But
they did flash grenade and try to disorient him, but
because I kept hearing that on Twitter that they were trying to flash him.
Right,
they were flashing him.
And then they're also shooting at him with non-lethal bullets, which sounds kind of weird.
It does sound kind of weird.
They didn't kill him.
No. No, absolutely not. No, he's very much alive.
And then after that, all kinds of pictures come out. They have like heat sensors on helicopters that actually show the guy lying there.
Oh yeah,
boat, right?
Yeah.
You just
the infrared from above him from the helicopter is what they did.
And I think one of the things that came out of this whole mess is the issue of privacy. I mean, obviously, we have no privacy, which in this case we're glad that we don't really have that much privacy because we got this guy basically from surveillance cameras, pictures on Facebook. And, basically, you talking about just infrared sensors from a helicopter. That's some Big Brother 1984 stuff, man.
Well,
we're just glad, in this case, we're just glad the technology worked. But I think...
And the guy whose car they hijacked,
right.
They carjacked his car,
right.
He left his cell phone in the car. Right. So they were using cell phone technology to track the car.
Right. So I think privacy would be one of the aftermath that would seriously come out of this again, because we already have discussions and arguments and studies on privacy and stuff. But bottom line is, this day and age, unless you're like totally off the grid, there is no privacy, man.
I'm not worried about the privacy issue as much, and here's why, because they still called out to everybody. I mean, even with all of the ways that they have to track people, they still called out and said, hey, we need your help to catch these guys. So the idea that I think a lot of people have with respect to privacy is that there are eyes on them all the time, always, tracking their every move. And yes, there is, but no, there isn't, because they're not really tracking you individually until they absolutely need to. And even then, they're probably still not going to catch up to you without the public's help. So yeah, I think we're right on the line where I feel like I've got enough privacy. I don't feel invaded at all. But then again, I'm not on the lam.
Well, were you?
I guess I could. I guess if I could be at any time, and then I would be furious at all these damn cameras and these cell phones and get all that away from me.
No, we are all on the lam for something.
Right.
And.
Did you see?
I think the crazy. Go ahead, Angela.
Did you see what Mother Jones put out about the mistakes they made?
The 15 curious thing that they did.
Yeah, one of them, of course, was it? There was a BB gun with them the entire time, which I thought was interesting.
And the other stuff is they shot the campus cop.
They actually walked up to him and tried to steal his gun. And they shot him in order to get his gun, and then they couldn't get his gun because his gun had a triple locking holster, and they couldn't figure it out. That to me was one of the saddest things in the whole thing. This young guy was actually friends with kids on the campus. He had just flashed his lights at some students that went by in greeting, and those same students were part of the medical team on that campus. Yeah. And they are the ones who had to come back and try and save his life.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, there was some sad stuff. But the other thing was the guy whose car they carjacked. They actually admitted to him right away, we're the Boston Marathon Bombers.
They did that several times. That's so weird to me. They kept telling people.
They wanted the notoriety. They did. They wanted everybody to know who they were and what they did.
When they held up the 7-Eleven, they did the same thing. We're the Boston Bombers.
Actually, you know that they didn't hold up the 7-Eleven?
What was that?
Yeah, that was
so weird.
Yeah, they didn't. Turns out they didn't.
There was a holdup in progress, and they got there at the wrong time.
And they connected it to them.
Yes.
Now see.
Isn't that just crazy? And the stories get bigger and bigger and funnier. I mean, not funny. Funny.
The cosmic karma thing that is working. I mean, the 3 people who died at the site of the marathon bombing. Obviously we have the kid.
Yep.
And we have a young woman who's I think is a teacher.
29 years old. Yep.
And we also have a foreign student from China.
Yes.
And you got to think like why? It's one of these things that you got to ask yourself, like why? It's like travel all the way to study, and he just died. And
well, and the little boy that this Johar actually. They have video of him setting the backpack down near that little kid.
Right.
And then walking to one side.
I think turned out they have like a lot more video and pictures that they have released it.
Yes.
So I think, but I'm not, again, I probably, listeners probably know now, I'm not religious. But, a lot of times when you ask why, religious folks would say, oh, God has a plan. I don't know what that plan is. I think that plan is kind of awful to a lot of people,
Unfortunately, these guys obviously radicalized by their religious beliefs, and I don't want to put too much focus on that because
it's just yet to come out.
Well, of course, yeah, and with respect to that, the extremist Muslims seem to me to be no different than, say, the extremist Christians. And these guys, and see, here's what happens when you become sort of an extremist or a fundamentalist when it comes to anything, is you're not really thinking anymore, because part of what they expressed was they said Americans think that Muslims are just violent. And we disagreed with what happened in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and we don't like American foreign policy. So what we're going to do to prove that we're not just a violent culture or a violent religion is we're going to blow the hell out of people. And wait a minute, see, you're not thinking anymore now that you're a fundamentalist for your religion.
There's a Facebook meme and of a picture of a message that got tossed around Twitter that I kind of love recently is it's basically Muslims sending out tweets that says, maybe I should say tweets every time but there was like, something like, a fundamentalist, these radical fundamentalist Muslims to Muslims is like Westboro Baptist Church to
it's the meme from
Christians. So
it's from The Matrix, Kevin.
What?
It's a meme from The Matrix.
From The Matrix. Oh, there's multiple. There are multiple versions of it.
The one I saw was actually from The
with
Matrix.
Morpheus, right?
Yeah.
Morpheus? Yeah, that one. and I think that's people need to realize that, because there's always like the far end of everything, and. Well, I'm on the far end of something. I'm on the far end of no designated hitter in baseball.
Yeah.
but you see what I mean, right? I mean, people. I think everybody need to sometimes take a breath, because we are already on. I think we are between in terms of the relationship with the Islamic world in America. I think we are on the blink of something awful. And we need to, come back off the cliff a little bit, because, stuff like this, like the Boston bombing happened, something like this can really, if people are not rational and not thinking clearly, can be a serious problem. Because remember, now after 9/11, all kinds of craziness happened. Muslims were being attacked.
Well, see, that happened this time too, but they caught the suspects eventually so quickly that, it didn't after 9/11, it really got carried out for a very long time.
Right.
But there were those two women that, I think it was, only one of them got beaten up, which is still too many. But yeah.
I gotta tell you guys.
The Saudi women.
Yeah, I gotta
tell you guys. Women, yes,
I gotta tell you guys a story. I know I'm dragging on already on this, but
go ahead.
After 9/11, right? This happened in Seattle. After 9/11, actually, I think the next day, a bunch of us went to this mosque in a suburb in Seattle, and we're just standing there with guys, a bunch of people. This is like a couple of days after 9/11, and we're just standing there, just show our support. Everybody has a flag. And we just show our support. We just say, the people who go to that mosque were there, just standing there, and just a bunch of other people, like including me, we're just standing there, just show our support. It's just like show everybody to drive by. It's like, hey, we understand, these are radicals that it has do harm to all of us, including Muslim Americans,
Right.
And at that time, I thought something really wonderful was going to come out of this like horrible mess, but there was you can say there was a kumbaya moment there, which I hope it grow. Really, I hope it really grow into something. But you gotta not love, but you gotta be amazed of all the conspiracy theory that came out of this Boston thing.
By the way,
right away, there are like a bunch of armchair SWAT teams. They were analyzing pictures from the shooting.
Oh my gosh!
There is actually a blogger who lived like right above where the where the older brother died.
Yeah.
And he just printed out or uploaded a bunch of pictures of the crime scene. And and then people were analyzing it. There's no way the FBI would get him. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, come on.
This needs to be said. They were followers of Alex Jones. They loved him. They believed in all of his, and they loved his radical anti-American, anti-government ideas, and they were followers of Alex Jones, which I think is hilarious because he comes out right afterwards and goes these blah, blah, blah. He just runs off at the mouth. Anyway, and then it turns out that these guys actually follow him. Yeah. They're InfoWars fans.
Well, and here's the deal. Okay, you know how we always check that box? Well, now Kevin, you don't check this box. But Melvin and I have to check a box for our ethnicity.
Oh yeah.
And what is that word? What do we check? Caucasian. It says Caucasian.
I check Caucasian.
Well, I check Asian. So hey.
Yeah, you check Asian. We check Caucasian. But the thing is, these two guys were the epitome of Caucasian. They came from the Caucasus region, Chechnya. Okay.
Yes, you're right. In terms of
ethnicity. And, couple of things I want to say. The Chechens have a very long and violent history, and they represent a group of people who are actually a diaspora. So the Jewish people, for years and years and years before there was a Jewish state now, Israel, also represented a diaspora. They're a group of people who have been dispersed around the world without any home place. And this for the Chechens started in 1944 when Stalin deported Chechens to Southeast Asia, and 30% of them died.
Right.
And then there were two brutal wars that Russia waged against the Chechen separatists in the 1990s after the USSR fell. And they killed 200,000 of a 1 million population.
Yeah.
Did we lose Melvin?
Yeah, he's
there.
Hi there.
Okay, you're back? Okay.
Yeah, it dropped me and then it brought me back.
Skype is being Skype.
So Skype is now correcting its own problems.
Right. Angela, you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Frank Bruni actually, aside from that, Frank Bruni in today's New York Times suggests that, we have people who have immigrated to this country or who haven't immigrated to this country who have a capacity for fury, and they live among us. And where there's a capacity for fury, justifications aren't hard to come by. So Timothy McVeigh, homegrown boy. The Branch Davidians, that was his tipping point. And while we're on the subject, the Branch Davidians, again, a group of people who had capacity for fury.
But they're homegrown, right?
Yeah.
So
and we have the Norway. Remember the incident in Norway in 2011?
Like somebody have a gun and just shoot out a camp or a school or something.
Yeah, well, okay, and let's talk about the recent shootings. We have the Aurora guy. We have the guy at Sandy Hook. I mean, a lot of this isn't so much that I belong to this cause and I believe in this. I have a tipping point for my fury, whatever it is. Right. Whatever it is. And I think to take that and run with it and say, oh, it's immigrants that we allow into this country. And my daughter was getting her hair done this week, and this normally fairly level-headed young lady who cuts her hair just went off on how we can't let these people into the country anymore.
Ugh.
Well, we all got here somehow, right?
Well, I mean, it's in terms of being irrational and just out of whack, I think it's pretty equal opportunity. I mean, anybody can, regardless of background and where they're from, has to, well, it's going to sound terrible. It's like, this is going to be like the ultimate terror, right? But it's like, but you know what I'm saying? It's yes. Not, I mean, they are these, it's not, well, that's not absolutely true either, because they're these two guys, their background does have, their backgrounds do have something to do with why they just went off the hook, But, but there was just like one of the things that I've been thinking about, I spent a lot of time in the car the past week, is how much in America, how much we don't talk about and how much we don't know. As in, these guys are from the ethnic Chechens, right?
Right.
And, the area, how much we don't know about that area between, near the Caspian Sea, where a bunch of republics and a bunch of areas just got included unwillingly into the former USSR and
right.
now Russia. Chechnya is one of those areas, and then there are other areas that I'm sorry I can't pronounce, and that
Moldova,
area,
some
right.
of those.
Is that I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but check it out. You can even Google Russian Federation and check out all the different areas all the federal territories or federal subjects that they have. It's very complicated, and there's a lot of historical beef that in America we just don't know about. I mean, even in America, I mean, I think I tell this story many times, both in Cantonese and in English, but I had a friend who was Armenian when I was in high school, and he was telling us about this really horrible history that they have between the Armenians and the Turks.
Right.
And even to this day, they're not seeing eye to eyes on a lot of things, and that kind of stuff we just don't even talk about, in America. So.
Well, and the guy who they have in custody right now, actually a few years ago, for a high school paper, right. had to write on a history of his, his background.
Right.
So all the kids in the class had to write something about the history of their background.
Right.
And he actually had to write to a college professor near him to get his own history of Chechnya. Right. I mean, he wasn't that well acquainted with it, even as recently as a few years ago. This is the young kid. And so, here this professor, probably has to feel like, okay, so I just gave him all this wonderful information about, all the things that have happened in your country, the country that you came from, that really is dispersed everywhere around the world because it has been so oppressed, and those people have been looked on with suspicion for so long by Boris Yeltsin and now, Putin and so on and so on.
Yeah. I mean, go back to that thing. Hey, Melvin, didn't we talk about this last week? That there's just emphasis on science and math is not enough. I mean, we do need humanities. We do need history.
Yes.
Right. There's so much stuff that come out of that would, frankly, kill us.
Well, right.
You know?
Well, yeah. Well, absolutely. And I wanna real quick, and I wanna put a neat little bow on this story here, and sort of move into another one real briefly. And it's unfortunate how much the healing there is left to do with respect to race relations in this country. I've heard the word post-racial used a lot, especially since the and what we have learned is that we are in anything but that kind of in anything but that kind of a mindset. This past couple of weeks, a song came out put together by Brad Paisley and LL Cool J, who knew that those guys were even friends. And what they thought that they were going to do by coming together on this song, which, by the way, blended the new country and hip-hop, which, by the way, those types of music are mortal enemies, and they don't sound good together. A lot of times they don't even sound good apart. But these guys thought that they were going to come together with Brad singing and LL rapping, and in the song there was a line, and what really infuriated not just the hip-hop community, but the African American community there was a line said in that song by LL Cool J where he said, "I will, if you can forgive the gold chains," which just referring to the gold chains that the rappers wear, "then I will forgive the iron chains." And what he was unfortunately equating falsely in a lot of people's minds is, hey, if you'll forgive my accessories, I'll forget that you enslaved my people for 400
Oh my gosh.
Now, he was obviously just trying to make a lighthearted joke, it really fell flat. And then, of course, Brad Paisley says, well, he starts off the song by saying, I went into Starbucks and he's wearing a Hey, I'm not a racist. I'm just a Leonard Skinner fan. And see, that's not what that flag is about. And he goes, look, it's really unfortunate. And they try to say in the song very uneloquently, that we just need to get over all this old stuff. We need to get over the Confederate flag. We need to get over slavery. We need to just forget about all that stuff and let's just start anew today. Obviously, nobody likes a song. It's very painful to the ears.
Well, I know there's this thought out there that is people. A lot of people make fun of social science people, social science community. Oh, what are they? Social science. I think one of the thing is. It's one of the function of social science is to study things so to prevent very elementary attempts like this to come out and just embarrass everybody and just muddy up the issue. That's the best way to
put it. It is an elementary attempt, and not only did it not do what they wanted it to do, it did the exact opposite. I tried to Shazam the song. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is. It's a phone app.
Yes, I've got one.
I tried to Shazam the song, and it won't let me Shazam it. Because I wanted to find out where I could find it. I've tried finding videos. The videos for it have all been pulled down. And what these guys have spent the last 3 weeks doing is defending the song. When on talk shows, radio shows, and when you hear them go on with Jay Leno or whatever, and they talk, they're just tired now. It's like the worst thing that they've ever. And they they're trying to. Here's what we tried to do. It didn't work. Fine. Go to hell. They wound up doing the exact opposite. Well, it is absolutely it's flared up race relations. And trust me, not only did the hip hop fans not want to hear what LL had to say, but the country fans really did not want to hear what Brad Paisley had to say.
Yeah, the other thing, of course, is the talk about the elementary level of race relation and social science and stuff. Hey, what about us? A lot of times when you talk about race relation, it's black and white. What about the rest of us? you know. I mean, and then there are the Latinos. I mean, there's I mean, for years and years, when we talk about race relation, we are kind of just somewhere in the middle, you know. But we are a totally different facet of the palette of humanity, you know, that doesn't fit in either world.
Well, and
it's not as simple as a dichotomy. Is that the right word even?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Angela.
Go ahead.
Well, and the thing is, Kevin, you're just bringing up a really good point. The problem with saying, okay, race relations and making it black and white is to set aside Latinos, Hispanics, however many different facets of that particular group there are. Because, okay, you can't just label everybody who has some sort of Latin heritage under the same label. Right. You can't do that with Asian Americans. Right. Okay? Everybody is a little bit different and coming from a different place. And the problem is, depending on where you come from and depending on your experience of trying to meld into the what we call the American experience here, it can impede your assimilation if people actually really ever assimilate. We're supposed to be a melting pot.
Right. Well, I mean, you can. I think part of it is. I think it's one is very complicated, of course. That's why it takes a lot of processor power. You have to be running on at least like 2.3 gigahertz to figure this out with a lot of RAM, right? What's going on with me? I'm running on total caffeine.
Well, we need scaffolding for people.
What
come in.
Right. What I'm saying actually is, to know more. A lot of times, even immigrants fall into this little trap. I would say a little trap that I think everybody kind of fall into this trap that like the English debate, whether English should be the official language, which is BS. I think everybody. I think the people on that side that says English should be the only official language, they're full of it totally because
most of them can't speak English well.
Right. And some of those memes, I'm not sure if they are actually being photoshopped, but some of them are pretty.
Oh, they're hilarious.
Pretty awful. English is spelled wrong. Official language. The word language is being spelled wrong. But I think I mean, in the reality, I think it's a. What am I trying to say?
Well,
the situation. Well, the situation is different. I think learning English is good, and everybody should because we need a common point of reference on things. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you have to shred. You have to totally forget where you're from.
Kevin, we aren't the Borg.
Right. No, I know. Yes. And,
right?
and, I was just
we don't assimilate you.
I was just talking to a bunch of friends recently, and I told them that they have a bunch of kids, and then the kids it's so awesome because they speak Spanish. I don't, but the kids were speaking English, perfect English to me. But they can turn their head when they talk to their parents. As far as I can tell, they're speaking perfect Spanish.
Yes.
And I just mentioned to the parents, I'm like, oh my God, I love bilingual kids, because it's so awesome. They have like 2 different systems running in their heads, and they're both working fine. And I think, now let me openly criticize some people here. Right?
Go ahead.
There are because I'm from that end of it. I know there are Asian parents that don't have their kids learn Asian language, even though the parents are perfectly fluent in whatever language it is, Korean, Chinese, right? There are Asian parents, especially Chinese parents, that make it a point to not have their kids learn Chinese, in this case. That's a big freaking mistake, I think. Because you know what? Kids are totally capable of doing the bilingual thing because they're still learning, right? Well, but I think I'm sorry. Let me one more sentence. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get out of this. But I think being bilingual number one, it's a huge advantage. And number two, it's the future of the world, man. Because we are more right now. It's getting so easy to communicate with other people in the world, and learning another language is just a really wonderful tool. Anyway, I will shut up on this one. How do we even get here?
Angela, go ahead, and then I'm gonna wrap this up.
Well, I've got 2 points I want to make. Kevin brought up such a cool one on the language. We don't have immersion in this country the way they do in some other countries. And I'm just going to mention our neighbor to the north, Canada, where my son-in-law grew up. And as a Canadian citizen, when he went to school, he could be in an immersion program from the time he began school. So he took half of his day in French and half of it in English. And I'm talking all subjects.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Wow. And so honestly, that really does prepare you for the idea that people aren't just English speakers in the world. Right. And that's translating to his own children now, who are also learning Spanish as they grow. But Frank Bruni said something today that I think needs to be said, and that is there's a danger that was built into the American experience, the very nature of which leaves us exposed. Our rightly cherished diversity can make the challenge of belonging that much steeper. Right. Our good fortune and leadership mean that we'll not just be envied in the world, but also reviled. Right. And the idea, too, that we're bringing so many different people together under one country, under one government, under one way of life, means that sometimes we have to adjust. Sometimes we have to back up and realize, okay, the people living next door to me have an entirely different experience of the American experience than I have. And I think, like you're saying, diversity, the humanities, all those things make us see that.
Well, in the risk of dragging this, I got inspired to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Angela, you teach English, so I think hopefully you'll agree with me on this. But no language is perfect.
No, especially not English.
Language is unfortunately I have to say this, but because language is kind of a stopgap. It's there are so many things that communication. That language doesn't do very well. There are a lot of stuff that language actually doesn't do very well to describe emotion or to describe a situation or whatever.
It also doesn't translate well.
Right. And every language do something really well, but every language do something really horribly. And, there are disadvantages of English. I just have to laugh. Sometimes I see these idiots with the English should be the official and only language of America. You have no idea what you're talking about. Because a lot of times English is so clumsy on certain things.
Absolutely.
As in, like the little, what do you call that? The OUGH.
Oh, yes.
That little thing.
Right.
If you stick it on something and it pronounced like this, and I got that from I Love Lucy episode with Ricky. It's like, the English doesn't make sense to me. It's just, is bow and through and thou and, that stuff. Right. And he was saying that, Spanish, it looks like what it is. It looks like how it's pronounced. Right. So that's that. And, these people who think English is it. Well, first of all, we don't live in England, so why is English, should be the official language of America? We should be speaking American. Hello.
You can speak Americanish.
Right, but every language bring in a certain quality.
This is when I say I teach English,
right,
and I teach the rules for English, and I tell my students, okay, I teach you the rules for English. I don't apologize for English. Right. There is no apology that could possibly cover the fact that this is such a wonky language, and it is. It's completely wonky. It's a hybrid of a whole bunch of languages, and it began as a spoken language,
right,
not a language with an official grammar.
Right. So, now, you guys probably may not know, but it's Chinese, right? I know Chinese, right? Oh yes, I know Chinese. But see, you can tell I'm running on caffeine, right? So Chinese, it has a different quality to Chinese. So a lot of times it's just insanely hard to translate exactly what it says on Chinese. It will be when it go to English, it will really be clumsy. But Chinese, and this is not I'm saying. I'm just reading stuff and listening to other experts talk about. Chinese is hard. It's harder to do legal documents and science in Chinese because Chinese tend to be a little bit more abstract and a little bit more elusive in terms of the language itself, how it's being laid out. So right now in Hong Kong, they're having a little bit of a problem here and there because before 1997, most of the legal documents are written in English, right? So it's very precise. Leave no room. Wow, that's not true either. But leave lesser room for consideration, right? But once you start translating those documents to Chinese, it will sound like I don't know what you're talking about. So, but every language brings in a different quality, and on top of that, see, I'm a musician. What music can say, sometimes it's so impossible to say it in language because language is so limiting in terms of certain, descriptive characteristics or descriptive ability. So I don't understand why are people trying to limit what other people should be learning or should be speaking or should be expressing because you're so not even close to being at the point if you're trying to do that to people. Am I making sense? It's just anyway. I'm done.
Most of Europe they speak multiple languages.
Right.
And the whole idea, and by the way, those memes and those pictures and those teabagger signs that you're seeing on the internet, those aren't Photoshop. See, the people that are saying that America should become the official language, the only language spoken, our most common, they have not bothered to learn the language. Even they have not bothered how to learning speaking and spelling. So the idea, the attitude with America, make America the official language.
You mean English?
Our own language. It's really saying in the world there's us and maybe there's you.
Right. Damn.
Is this what we call American exceptionalism?
Yeah. We're the only ones here.
Right.
We come first, and that's it. Wow. And so, when you have to learn about other cultures, when you have to learn another language, you're acknowledging that you're not the only one, and they don't like that.
Right.
And those people are actually not from America. They are from a place called 'MURICA.
Right. I mean, it still go back to this concept of there's only one pie. And, if somebody else have a slice, you have less,
Yes.
But it's actually not that. It's like we have more pies.
Right.
We have more pies and then, maybe pizza on top of that.
Or as a famous person once said, build the pie higher.
A vegan pizza.
Yeah. All right. Hey,
we should move on now.
Did you catch my Bush reference there, guys?
I did.
Okay.
Lady and gentlemen, let's move from English to math.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. So we should we were on the agenda. We actually we were planning to talk about Syria, but let's push that to next week because there will be. I think there will be. This thing is just developing.
We're gonna know more.
It's not like next week. The whole Syria thing will be over.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No, I think we'll know more by the time we go back on the air.
So go ahead. Let's move to the austerity.
Angela, do you want to take the lead on this one? Or do you want me
I'd love to.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
January 4th, 2010, Carmen Reinhardt and Ken Rogoff presented at the American Economic Association meeting, Growth in a Time of Debt. And this was predicated, a study predicated on the idea that economic growth slows dramatically when the size of a country's debt rises above 90% of GDP, gross domestic product. Okay, right about that same time, Thomas Herndon, a graduate student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, was given a graduate school assignment. Pick an economic paper and duplicate the results. So he chose theirs. Okay, now this paper that they put out, this study, actually the question being asked behind it is something like this. Is it best to let debt increase in the hope of stimulating economic growth to get out of a slump? Or is it better to cut spending and raise taxes aggressively to get the public debt under control? And that's what their study was based on. Now, people have run with their idea. One of them being the European Union Commissioner Olli Rehn, and thus getting it translated into several countries in the European Union, including Italy, Greece. What other countries can I think of right off the top of my head? And then also another person we all recognize, U.S. Republican Senator Paul Ryan, and they have both quoted the 90% debt to GDP limit to support their austerity policies. So the euro, immediately after this policy began getting adopted in Europe, began to feel the strain of austerity measures. If you look at a map recently of where austerity has gone, austerity policies in Europe, it's amazing the devastation. And you can follow it from Greece and Italy northward through Europe into the British Isles. The United Kingdom, by the way, their new coalition government promised to raise taxes and cut spending. And the debate, of course, has raged in the U.S. over the Ryan budget and the U.S. stimulus, and we all know about the sequester and so forth and so on.
Right.
Okay, all this is going on, and Thomas Herndon's homework assignment isn't going well. He's trying to figure out how can I replicate this, because everything he does, plugging in their numbers, doesn't work. So he goes to his professors and he says, this isn't working. And they're saying, well, you're doing something wrong. So he tries and tries, and the end of term comes and he's not done with his term project. Mm-hmm. And he says, this still isn't working. And his professors go, let me try that. And they try it and it's not working. So they say, okay, you need to contact Reinhardt and Rogoff and see if you can get some information from them. So he does. Wait. Gets,
is it his way to try to get some graduate school money out of this? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, his report came out this week in conjunction with his profs. But before I get there,
right.
Reinhardt and Rogoff give him their working spreadsheet. And he looks at this and he looks at this and then he calls his girlfriend and he says, come over here and look at this and tell me if my eyes are deceiving me. And she goes, no, I'm seeing what you're seeing. And here's what this spreadsheet actually did. Yeah. They accidentally left out 5 of the 20 countries that they were actually providing statistics for when they did their spreadsheet. Those 5 countries, Canada, Australia, Austria, Belgium, and Denmark. Could be important countries, okay?
Legoland.
Yeah, Legoland. One bad year in New Zealand is given the same weight as 20 years of high debt in Britain. Wow. Using this. And so the whole thing is wonky. Now, fast forward to this week when, of course, Mr. Herndon, together with his profs, put out a paper saying, this is nuts. This thing doesn't work. And it's why austerity is not working worldwide. Right. And Reinhardt and Rogoff appeared in the New York Times this Friday with a defense. Here's one of their statements. A small miscalculation can't be used to dismiss centuries of data. Okay? But the one thing that really comes out, and they are providing a defense of their figures and everything, but the one thing that really comes out of this that I think is just amazing is how their study was cherry-picked by people like Paul Ryan. And the one statement they say is, austerity seldom works without structural reforms. And if poorly designed, can disproportionately hit the poor and the middle class. No duh. Okay, our consistent advice has been to avoid withdrawing fiscal stimulus too quickly, a position identical to that of most mainstream economics. And they go through and break this down. But basically, if you're going to take austerity measures, you need to actually support, actually build a scaffolding so that the people who could be hardest hit, the poor and the middle class, aren't hardest hit. And then Krugman, in the same paper, Paul Krugman, and of course I love Paul Krugman, but he came out with with something that blasted this even further. And the thing that he says is, it's not just a matter of emotion versus logic. You can't understand the influence of austerity doctrine without talking about class and inequality. So he's going down the same lines. But what he points out is the wealthy favor cutting federal spending on healthcare and Social Security entitlements. And the austerity agenda looks a lot like the simple expression of upper class preferences. What is true is that the years since we turned to austerity have been dismal for workers, but have not at all been bad for the wealthy. They have prospered. There you go, gentlemen.
Let me debunk austerity without using the report, without using Krugman, without using. If I find myself under a lot of debt, I have learned that the fastest way to pay off that debt is to quit my job. Stop taking in any money whatsoever. Right? Why not? I mean, that's essentially what austerity is.
Yes.
To say, obviously, I need to find a way to get money. I need to find a way to start spending money, even if I have to have that money loaned to me. We're currently trying to buy a house right now. The price of the house, the full price of the house, is triple what my wife and I earn in 1 year. So does that mean that I should not try to buy that house because it's going to put me in absolute economic dire straits the minute I obtain it? Of course not. Right. If to say 95%, if we're at 100%, that's not that bad. If we're at 120% of GDP, the debt to GDP, it's not that bad. But we're not going to pay it down without money. But austerity, now here's the thing. Austerity has been bought by people here in the country. Over on the Daily Coast, they did a great article on this, and I want to quote real fast. It says the people, there's just talking about regular people here in America who are buying into the austerity. They're still blaming the economic crisis on loans awarded to the poor rather than the banks and brokers who created speculative investments valued at many thousands of times the sum of those loans. They're still concerned that someone on welfare might not be working hard enough to deserve a life of grinding poverty, rather than being upset at CEO salaries that have moved inexorably from mere extravagant to obscene. They've accepted that cutting spending is a good thing and that redistribution of wealth is one short step away from the Holocaust. When you're dealing, and it is. If you ask them, they go, "Hey, redistribution of wealth, what's next? Hitler?" I don't even know how you got from A to B.
You didn't.
I mean, there's kind of tie into what we talked about like 30 minutes ago, as in, the other side of it, of course, is, well, if you only look at the numbers. I mean, it seems like, the Paul Ryan people are only trying to steer everybody into just looking at the numbers. But there is another side of it that they don't want people to consider, as in the social side of it. As in, in terms of, go back to social science, lack of understanding or lack of even care of the social science sides of everything. Government, cutting government spending, what that would do socially to a society. When the poor have even less resources to handle life, what that would do. 20 years down the road,
We saw an example of this played out just this week when, with the air traffic controllers, they decided to reverse that part of sequestration. By the way, we don't call it austerity here in America. We call it sequestration. They decided to reverse that part of the sequestration because the whole air traffic control thing was causing a lot of planes to sit on the ground, causing a lot of people to wait. And so they said, you know what, that's affecting a lot of wealthy people. They flipped that right over. And now the austerity with respect to the air traffic controllers is no longer in place. But austerity with respect to school lunches and the Head Start program and things of that nature, that's still in place.
Yeah. And there's an article in the latest Atlantic Monthly. The vote to actually try and ease air traffic control is bad for Democrats and bad for democracy. The most painful cuts from sequester obviates the whole point of sequester. Sequester was supposed to be so dark and painful nobody could stand it. Not pretty painful, but easily tolerated with some fixes. So if Republicans can pick and choose which cuts to reverse, then the Democrats have actually lost the strategy to force the GOP to accept higher taxes in doing this. So it really is a backlash, allowing this vote to have gone through, that we're going to, take care of the flight delays so people aren't inconvenienced anymore. By the way, a lot of the members of Congress.
Right, exactly.
It's really, really bad for Democrats because it really does take the teeth out of some of what's going on.
Right.
I don't know if you're following me there.
Go ahead.
I've made the point before, and I feel like I have to make it again because it's going to fit into this conversation. But government spending should always be counter-cyclical. When times are good, go ahead and let the government back off and let the private sector, do what it should be doing because the government creates the markets. And then I don't hate to call it the free market, but I'll call it private businesses. Then they take governments created markets and then they do something with them. But when things are bad, that is our body, government is, to lift us out of that and to suggest that what we want to do with that collective body is nothing. It makes the point of that body being there pointless. And obviously, it's not pointless. We need it, and we're all buying into the argument that we need less government and that we need less spending. That spending is the problem. I'll tell you what: if we didn't have President Barack Obama right now, and we had, say, President McCain, you wouldn't be hearing anything about austerity. Not just that, we would be at war with not just Iran, but with Syria right now. We would have started bombing Syria last week.
Nice segue.
Wow.
Nice segue. And it just occurs to me that what we've done here is back ourselves into a corner with this whole thing, with sequestration. And that really, really bothers me a great deal.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we I don't even know what to say on this one because in a way it's so glim,
Well, obviously, what needs to happen now is the Republicans need to.
Okay, well, I mean, what
exactly what's not going to happen?
Right. Well, what really has to happen is, 2014. We need to vote a bunch of them out.
When John Boner says, "I got 98% of what I wanted," that's the point at which Obama should have said, "Oh crap! What have I done with that weepy, leathery orange?"
Right.
What have I done?
Right.
He got what he wanted. We're going to hell in a handbasket now because he goes, damn. I mean, we should have known at that moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always there's also this complaint from our end to the Obama administration, but let's leave it to next week, shall we?
We can do that. We can do
okay.
that. All right, cool.
So let's have a not really a new segment, but I would call it a para segment to our existing segment here. Let's have an honorable mention. Did I say that right? Honorable
mentions.
Okay, so honorable mention.
Let's have a couple.
Not dishonorable mention, but honorable mention. That's the opposite of dishonorable mention. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
So go ahead, Angela. It's your honorable mentions of this.
My honorable mentions. Okay, first one out of the chute is Jeff Bridges. The dude abides. 35 million people in the U.S. are hungry or don't know where their next meal is coming from, and 13 million of them are children. If another country were doing this to our children, we'd be at war.
Oh, really?
Love it.
Yeah,
love
absolutely.
it. Okay?
So,
and
so that's coming from, is it Lightfoot? See, nobody know what I'm talking about.
No,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Remember
No.
that movie with Jeff Bridges and Clint Eastwood, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Actually, it's been a couple of decades, but yes, I do remember that.
Anyway. All right.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Angela.
Elizabeth Warren is my next one. If 8 children were dying every day from a mysterious virus, our country would mobilize to put a stop to it. Gun violence is an epidemic that is taking our children's lives in our schools, on our streets, and in our neighborhoods. As with other epidemics, we must do everything we can to make a difference for people through prevention and treatment. Nicely
It's
said.
a beautiful thing about Elizabeth Warren is she is in the middle of it. So she's just not saying it.
No,
She's actually going
saying,
to do it.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to the day that I'm going to vote for her. Because
Yes.
we have not voted for her yet, right? In our party,
No,
right?
no,
right?
she's just Massachusetts.
Right, so I'm looking forward to the day that we actually cast a vote on a
With
ballot
her on the
that
ticket.
has her name on it.
That has
Wherever
her
it
name
is,
on it.
wherever it is, the VP slot, the president's slot,
first slot, I don't care.
Whatever.
I'll take it. All right, cool. And Angela, do you have a dishonorable this week?
Do I have a dishonor?
It's so hard to choose.
I know.
It was so hard to choose, but I had to finally go with Max Baucus and say, don't let the screen door hit you on the way out. Okay?
Wham!
Yeah. His approval,
No one's gonna miss you.
he is called, actually Bill Moyers called him, a connoisseur of revolving door corruption. And an article in the New York Times earlier this month documented how at least 28 former Baucus staffers have lobbied their ex-boss on tax issues in recent years. This guy has so many people in his pockets that actually his next move, which we were talking about before the show started, Melvin, of actually becoming a lobbyist just makes sense because that's exactly what he's been. He is not a congressman. He's a lobbyist.
I'm not even sure why he's considered a Democrat.
Well, and here's the deal. This goes back to President Wilson. Woodrow Wilson in 1885, Congressional Government, wrote the book Congressional Government, and it actually launched his political career. And he criticized the standing committees in Congress as an invitation to corruption because they're easier to manipulate. And that's exactly what Max Baucus represents. Is a member of standing committees. He's on the finance committee. And he is easily corrupted, as are other members of that finance committee. So, Max Baucus, we're glad to see you leave, and I hope you don't make it as a lobbyist.
I mean,
Bye.
a lot
Bye.
of times you're wondering, he's not going to run again, right? So, like Senator Begich from I hope I say his name right, from Alaska. He voted against background check, right?
Right.
You can argue. I understand where he's coming from because he, on this one we don't see eye to eye on it. But he from Alaska. Alaska is a pretty red state, so on some issues he will have to go the other way. I understand that argument, which. I wish things are different, but there are other senators from different states, right? I think there's one from North Carolina that voted against a background check. I understand because they do have to win another election to stay on to to vote yes on issues that we think they should vote yes. But for somebody like Max Baucus, he is probably triangulating for something else.
Well, the gentleman you mentioned from Alaska
Right.
is actually somebody that President Obama did a little bit of arm twisting, LBJ style, with, and actually sat down with him and said, okay, so you want these infrastructure problems in Alaska addressed. And I forget what the specific thing it was that Obama said he would get behind for on behalf of that senator. But then this guy who said, yeah, and I will support background checks, then goes behind his back and does not support them.
Well,
I think that there should be LBJ-style retribution.
Well,
Because LBJ would have backed him against the wall and said, okay, you're...
politicking. That's why politicking is fun and interesting because,
Yeah.
because, he does have to win another election to stay on.
Yeah.
But, Max Baucus and, a couple of these guys who... They're obviously trying to get a lobbyist job or somewhere. Like was that like Dick Gephardt? Remember Dick Gephardt?
Yes.
Gosh, come on. And then the Corzine, is that like the New Jersey governor too? Wasn't he become a big lobbyist or something? And then there's another senator from I forgot Connecticut or somewhere that was fairly liberal and stuff, but then become a lobbyist. So.
Well, Max Baucus' numbers are really bad. in Montana, his approval rating. And apparently there is somebody who is coming forth to do a primary challenge.
Right.
So he didn't figure he could win re-election either.
Yeah, so, I mean, the trend, unfortunately, what I'm seeing the trend is red states are getting redder. There are a few exceptions, but it seems like, like Idaho is not going to climb out of the red hole very soon.
I don't think so.
Not during our lifetime, But the blue states are getting bluer, like California is getting bluer. Our state, Washington, is getting bluer. Yay.
Yay!
So it's like you look at the map, it's like the Civil War all over again. It's the same thing. Something never changed. So
right.
Anyway,
all right, Kevin, you're dishonorable there.
Right. So of course, it's so hard to choose from, but I gotta give this honor to Louis Gohmert should be a minor representative from Texas, but he keep trying to throw himself into the limelight, seems like. And the way he do that is to say crazy things, just absolutely insane stuff. And, he's the, I actually saw him a couple of times. They pan a camera to the Republican side or wherever these guys are sitting during the past couple of State of the Union. And he's the guy that looks really angry and his whole face turned pink. That's who he is. So this week he actually came out and said the Muslim Brotherhood members have influence in the Obama administration, and the direct quote is, "Thank God for the moderates that don't approve of what's being done." Gohmert continued, but this administration has so many Muslim Brotherhood members that have influence that they just are making wrong decisions for America.
Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, number one, where is the evidence of that? I mean, it seems like, and the president actually made a joke about it at the White House correspondents meeting that last night. We're taping the show on the 28th of April. So last night there was the nerd prom happened last night.
Yeah, the nerd prom.
The nerd prom, right? But there. So, it seems like a couple of these people, Sarah Palin, Louis Gohmert, and a couple of other, like Michelle Bachmann, and to some extent, who's the crazy commentator? Michelle Malkin, and who's the other one?
Glenn Beck?
No, Glenn Beck, of course. Glenn Beck is a given. He's crazy. What's that? The woman?
Laura Ingraham.
Laura Ingraham is one of them, but the other one.
What's her last name? C something.
Whoever. I forgot.
I try and forget her name.
Yeah, she, the blonde woman. That
blonde
crazy
woman.
Thing. It seems like what their strategy really is. They're just going to throw a bunch of crap on the wall and see what sticks, and see who is going to depend, and they depend on the internet and the right wing crazies to run with it. So that's how the strategy. I mean, that's not really a strategy. That's just like high school.
Are we trying to think of Man Coulter? I tell you what, the things that get past her Adam's apple and leave her mouth, it's insane. Here, let me.
Yeah, somebody need to ask like Louis Gohmert about his necrophilia incidences.
What?
Yeah. Hey.
See.
Yeah.
That was kind of a joke.
No, I understand.
No, I mean, it's just stupid. It was just throwing,
It is.
just throwing crazy stuff on the wall and see what sticks. So, somebody asked Louis Gohmert about necrophilia. Okay, please.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, that's out of nowhere.
All right.
Sometimes, wait. Let me say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Sometimes you really gotta wonder what the hell is going on in that camp. And I'm pretty sure deep within the Republican Party, probably inside Dick Cheney's heart chambers, when they're having secret meetings. There's somebody within the Republican Party, high up in the Republican Party. I'm pretty sure some of them are like, what what the hell is going on with our party? Because we have like people like Louis Gomez just running around saying crazy things. I'm sure some of them who actually are, real politicians who are capable of really rational decisions and rational thinking. Some of them got to be wondering, what the hell is going on? We have like Sarah Palin running around. I mean, these are the stuff that is going to like destroy us for the next 20, 25 years, or 6 election cycles. I'm sure some of them within the higher up in the Republican Party are like, what?
They are. There was a Republican who was secretly taped this last week.
Yeah, like some of these guys like Huntsman, they got to be like behind the door. They got to be like, what the hell is going on here?
Angela, did you hear about that guy? I forget his name. He was secretly taped at a meeting, and what he wound up saying, which, by the way, I think you can find the audio over on HuffPost and a few of the others. But what he said is he said, okay, this is off the record. Obviously, he had no idea he was being recorded, and he goes, people like Rush Limbaugh.
Yes, I read this.
Yeah, he goes, they're screwing it up for everybody.
Yes.
He goes, they are ruining, he just named names. He goes, all of these people are ruining our party. These teabaggers, he goes, they're just ruining it. Anytime we try to get anything sensible done, he goes, these people just, and
whoever this was, he actually told somebody to turn off their recording devices.
Yep.
And the guy standing next to that guy, pulled his iPhone out and recorded the whole thing.
Yeah, like that's gonna work.
And
hey, do not record this now.
And I wish I could remember his name. The guy's a really respected Republican strategist.
I can look it up.
He's in the news a lot. All right, go ahead and do that.
Hey kids, get off my lawn. Kids will never get off your lawn if you say that.
I want to. All right. While you're looking.
Can I say? I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
And a lot of people say, well, what about people on your side? I really can't think of on the Democratic side and the far left. I can't really think of an equivalent of people like Louis Gomez or Sarah Palin.
There is no far left.
There is no equivalent, right? There is nobody on our side that we are like, oh, come on, please shut up. I don't think, you can argue that, Dennis Kucinich is pretty on the left, right? Pretty far on the left. But I think the Democratic Party are fine with him.
Yeah,
they're not saying that he's ruining anything.
No, and he's never said anything that's made me cringe.
Right, so there's no equivalent. There's no really, in terms of people like Rush Limbaugh, just people in the media just sprouting crazy stuff. I don't think there's an equivalent on the left. Right?
Melvin.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, April 22nd, Frank Luntz.
Frank Luntz.
Frank Luntz.
He was holding a talk at his alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, and providing his essential take on political communication. It's not what you say that matters, it's what people hear. And he cracked a joke about Nancy Pelosi and facelifts and acknowledged his party needs to interact more effectively with a wider swath of Americans. But he's the one who came out and said about people like Rush Limbaugh. They get great ratings and they drive the message and it's really problematic. And this is not on the Democratic side, it's only on the Republican side.
Yeah, just the point you made.
Democrats have every other source of news on their side, so it's a lot of what's driving it. But if you take Marco Rubio's getting his ass kicked, who's my Rubio fan here? We talked about it. He's getting destroyed by Mark Levin, by Rush Limbaugh, and a few others.
Well, but Frank Luntz himself is pretty.
Oh yeah.
He's not exactly a.
No, but he is pointing. I mean, he is recognizing a larger problem that really the rest of us are already saying, and they haven't really. Right. From it, but you can bet that there is going to be some fallout from it. Okay, let me. I got two that I want to touch on, and the second one is starting to come to sort of a happier ending. These are my DMs. First one is going to be 61-year-old Esther Irene Stokes of Montgomery, Alabama, a Texas prep school teacher who stands accused of molesting a black first grade student, claims that she is completely innocent. Why? She has an ironclad defense. She's racist. A 7-year-old student accused her of touching her, and according to a detective, Stokes said that she couldn't have followed the student because she's racist and doesn't like touching black children.
Oh
A statement A statement released by the school says Stokes was initially placed on administrative leave, but was subsequently terminated upon completion of an internal investigation. She's currently free after posting a $10,000 bond and is due back in court May 21st. I couldn't have fondled that student. I hate black kids.
You know, that's just, I mean, you gotta laugh you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. I mean, it's just so, can it get more ridiculous than that?
She's gonna say that in court too, I'm pretty sure. And so her lawyers are gonna be like, you know what, don't talk, just let us do this. And the last I want to do is, I want to get into Bob Davis. Bob Davis is a conservative talk show host, over in Minneapolis. And last week, or the week before, excuse me, he went on the air and he said, and I quote, "I have something I want to say to the victims of Newtown or any other shooting. I don't care if it's here in Minneapolis or any place else. Just because a bad thing happened to you doesn't mean that you need to put a king in charge of my life. I'm sorry that you suffered a tragedy, but you know what? Deal with it and don't force me to lose my liberty, which is a greater tragedy than your loss. I'm sick and tired of these victims trotted out, given rides on Air Force One, hauled into the Senate, and everyone is just afraid. They're terrified of these victims. Well, you know what I would do? I would stand in front of these victims and I would tell them to go to hell." And he backed, and so since he said that he would stand in front of the Newtown victims and tell them to go to hell, Newtown, Connecticut has offered to fly him out to Newtown, Connecticut and let him say that in front of the Newtown families. Also, since he said it, he has now begun losing advertisers for his show.
Wow, he's just a horrible human being, bottom line.
Yeah.
I'm about to sing
They said, "Hey, you want to tell the Newtown victims to go to hell? We'll fly you out here and let you tell them."
Right. Yeah. What's up, Angela?
I was just about to break into a Beatles song.
Which one?
"Happiness is a warm gun."
Oh.
Okay, I mean, I'm sorry. Did you see Across the Universe at all?
I'm lost.
There's a wonderful section in that film that is about that song, and is it a song? Is there somebody that Beatles has a song called "You Are Just an A-hole"? I don't know, but that was a joke. I think needs to be done. That would be the song. If there's such a song out, that's the song I would be thinking about. The guy Melvin just mentioned, he's just an a-hole. No, it was his comment about guns. You know, my right to own guns, and I keep thinking of these people very ironically in terms of that old Beatles song because it was intended sarcastically. So. Okay, so this show is already at close to 80 minutes, so I think we should wrap up here. I think today is just we didn't actually talk about a lot of topics, but we digress on a lot of them, and I'm sure a lot has to do with it. You know, me running just on adrenaline and caffeine. So, next week I think we should talk a little bit more about Syria because that looks like it's becoming a serious problem. If not already. No more developments on that. Yeah, so... Okay, so anything else, Melvin and Angela? I look forward to digressing on Syria. Okay. All right, I'll see you guys next week, and we will hopefully get the show ready by our regular time on Saturday. All right, bye. Bye. Bye-bye!